This is not a highlight video. Stefanos Tsitsipas has done it. He has taken down two-time defending champion Roger Federer in the fourth round of the Australian Open. I have thoughts. I'm here. Let's do it. The first thing you might notice is the title. I don't say Roger Federer stunned by Stefanos Tsitsipas. Roger Federer upset by Stefanos Tsitsipas. I'm going to say Stefanos Tsitsipas knocks out Roger Federer because I think Tsitsipas deserves that respect. He deserves the respect. If it's John Millman, I'm going to say Federer upset John Millman. But I think Tsitsipas showed enough here and has shown enough in the lead up to this where the title is Tsitsipas beats Federer. And that's how it should be. A lot of people are looking at this match and they're zooming out, and I think it's an interesting thing that I've heard a lot and I've seen a lot on Twitter, and that is comparing this to Federer's 2001 win over Pete Sampras at Wimbledon. Now, Stefanos Tsitsipas hasn't shown enough for him to draw comparisons to Roger Federer, a young Roger Federer. He hasn't, but neither had Roger Federer in 2001. You just never know how people are going to develop. What I do think is interesting is how are we going to look at this match? Because when Pete Sampras lost to Federer in 2001 Wimbledon, Pete had won 4 straight Wimbledons. Federer was the 15 seed. He was 20 years old. Now, everyone agreed that Federer had promise, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. I was pretty young. Given those circumstances, people would say, that's not a good loss by Sampras there. Sampras should have taken out that youngin'. But looking back, could be worse. There are worse losses than Roger Federer at Wimbledon, regardless of Federer's age. And Sampras played one more year, and he won one more Grand Slam, the US Open 2002, and he called it quits after that. Unbelievable. So there are some parallels there. It'll be impossible to know if this match will be likened to that, especially if Tsitsipas doesn't doesn't continue to win in this tournament and make perhaps a final or perhaps win the whole thing. If Tsitsipas doesn't do that, then it's going to be hard to compare it to Federer's win over Sampras at Wimbledon 2001. But I think it's important to point out, before I get into the nitty-gritty of this match, the way we look back on this could be, that wasn't much of an upset, really. That's possible. We could look back on it that way. We'll just have to sit back, wait, and find out. I'm going to go kind of chronological and break down the match, but first, I want to talk about Tsitsipas for a second, and I want to say that he is showing a lot of championship characteristics, I think. And I've been able to watch him a lot because he's had a lot of early matches here. And to me, he's showing two championship qualities. Two qualities of a champion. One, his focus and his poise throughout a match. These are some of the attributes that separate the underachievers from the achievers. Most of the players in the game that we look at and we say, oh, they're so talented, but they just can't get it done. They lack focus and poise. Tennis is a long sport. You have no teammates. This is not like soccer or football, where if you're on defense and the other team has the ball, maybe you can check out for a few minutes and it won't hurt you. No, it's just you. You can't check out. And it's not 90 minutes. It could be 4 hours. This is a sport that requires a lot of intense focus. And a guy like, I'll drop some names. A guy like Fognini or Monfils or like Nick Kyrgios. So many of the guys we say, so talented but can't get it done, they lack focus, they lack poise. Stefanos Tsitsipas has shown incredible focus and incredible poise throughout this tournament. And I was concerned that he was going to crash because against Basilashvili, I thought he was so emotionally charged throughout that match and showed so much intensity throughout that match that I was concerned that Tsitsipas wasn't going to come out and play his best. And he did play his best. Because this is a quality that I'm starting to see from Tsitsipas that he's going to always have. And throughout this tournament, he really hasn't had a lot of stretches where he's played poor tennis, where he's had lapses. Basilashvili earned that third set that he won. Federer earned the first set that Federer won. Tsitsipas has been incredibly consistent. The second thing is clutch serving. Great players, outstanding players, serve better in clutch moments. Example 1A, Roger Federer. Break points, set points, match points, whatever it is, great players elevate their serving in big moments, if that's their game, right? So, not to take away from more defensive players who elevate other parts of their games, but players with the mold of Federer and Tsitsipas, they elevate their serving in big moments if they're going to be champions, if they're bound to be champions. That brings me to my next point, which is the styles. And here's why I think we might start to see Federer get upset a little bit more. Here's why I think that this was somewhat predictable. And it wasn't predictable. If you followed me on Twitter, here's what I said. If you follow me on Twitter, @Gill, I said I could see Tsitsipas forcing some tie breaks if he plays his best. And the thing about tie breaks is it can go either way. The margin just shrinks. The margin shrinks. And all bets are off when the margin shrinks. Now, I was concerned he wasn't going to play his best. I was concerned that he was going to crash because I had watched him throughout the tournament exert a lot of mental and physical energy. He didn't crash. He played his best. He played 3 tie breaks. He won 2 of them. But I want to bring to attention something that I read on Tennis Abstract earlier this week. If you don't read Tennis Abstract, you should. The blog posts, they're fantastic. I love them. But I'm going to pull up a graphic here. You see Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. Those quadrants are aggression ratings. So they measured aggression, and they put players into quadrants. And then they measured how often the favorite based on ELO rankings, how often the favorite won. So when Q1 is the least aggressive players. So Nadal and Djokovic are in Q1, statistically. Q2 is the next level up. Q3, the next level up. Q4 is the most aggressive players. They might be, no, I'm pretty sure they're in Q1. Federer is in Q4. Tsitsipas is probably in Q4. Not confirmed. Can't see. Didn't check it because I don't think it's public. I don't think the full algorithmic spreadsheet was made public. But I'm pretty sure Tsitsipas would also be Q4. The point is, these are 2 aggressive players who hold serve a lot and play a lot of offense. Check this out, guys. Q1 versus Q1 at the top. The favorite wins 75% of the time. Q4 versus Q4. The favorite wins 61% of the time. The favorite based on the higher ELO ranking. That is a huge disparity. And that is because when Q4 players meet, there's less margin in the match. That's why the favorite will be upset more often. When you play a lot of neutral baseline rallies, there's a little bit wider margins for the more skilled player to pull away and show why they're the more skilled player. I don't know if I chose the perfect words there, but I think I've done enough where you kind of get the point. The more tie breaks there are, the more volatile the results of a match might be. So that's something that I thought was interesting. I read earlier this week, and I think it would apply to a match like this. It would give Stefanos Tsitsipas a better chance to score this upset. It would make it so that Roger Federer, we can expect him to have more results like this, perhaps as he becomes a worse returner, a worse defender, and someone who relies a little bit more on just holding serve. If he's going to play more tie breaks, it's quite dangerous. Okay. Now, I want to transition. Oh, one more thing. Speaking of tie breaks, check this out. This is also from Tennis Abstract's stat page. This right here, this list, is tiebreak win percentage last 52 matches. Historically, Roger Federer, along with John Isner, they are the two greatest tiebreak players win percentage-wise of all time. Those two are the best. But in the last 52 matches, Roger Federer is in 15th place. Djokovic has been better, Nadal has been better, Zverev, Del Potro, Raonic and Anderson, among others. Sorry if I left out your favorite player. That's not good enough. So that's a dip. So Federer hasn't been what he normally should be in tiebreaks. Let's talk about this match, because in the first set, it was a really well-played set. It was a tiebreak, and Federer won it. Remember when they met in Hopman Cup? They played 2 tiebreaks. Federer won both tiebreaks. Okay, Tsitsipas played great. Federer played some pretty good tennis as well in that first set. It was a well-played set, and Federer came out on top. And you might think, okay, maybe Tsitsipas just gave the best he can offer, and he still lost. Maybe that crash is coming. And then in the second set, at 4-5, Federer had 4 break points, 4 set points. They were break points, but they were set points. And Tsitsipas came up with 2 clutch serves, two service winners. Then Federer made an error on his forehand. It was kind of a forced error because it was a heavy ball by Tsitsipas. And then the fourth and final set point, this to put Federer up 2 sets to love. And in this respect, it was like the Anderson match. Because it was almost like, ooh, this match was so close. Federer was so close to pulling away to perhaps an insurmountable deficit. Perhaps. So close. That fourth set point was a chip second serve return by Federer. Chip cross court on a Tsitsipas second serve. And Tsitsipas ran around the chip return and hit an inside-out forehand that forced an error from Federer. Keep in mind what I just told you, how I described that point, because it's going to come back later. Then in the tiebreak, in the second set tiebreak, on the first point, Federer missed a very easy forehand in the middle of the court, one that he really shouldn't have missed. After that, Tsitsipas really earned it. Tsitsipas, I think he secured another mini break, and he won the tiebreak, but he played really well. And Federer didn't play that badly, with the exception of that first point. Okay, now it's a set apiece. Now let's go to the third set. It's 5-6, Federer is serving. Still, once again, this is kind of how it is. Tsitsipas is playing great tennis. Federer's playing pretty good tennis. They're holding serve. That's what they do. These guys have big serves and big forehands. Really, really big forehands. They take it on the rise. They place their serve well. I mean, they're going to hold serve a lot. Tsitsipas's idols growing up, Federer, Sampras. Those were his idols, and it shows. So it's 15-all. Federer's serving. He makes 3 forehand errors in this game. 3 forehand errors to give Tsitsipas the break. And in that respect, it kind of reminded me, once again, of the Kevin Anderson match. Once again, of a lot of the matches that Federer lost last year. The forehand needs to be more consistent. Federer made 55 unforced errors in this match. I don't think that Federer, I hesitate to say, okay, like Federer blew it because he was spraying balls all over the place and he couldn't make a ball and he made 55 unforced errors. Federer needs to be really aggressive, so I don't think unforced errors are really tell the full story with him. I think he needs to make some errors, but they can't come in bunches. And at 5-6, they came in bunches, and they all came on the forehand. So now Federer's down 2-1. And now I start to question. There once was a time where Federer seemingly needed to beat his rivals in straight sets. Where if Federer wasn't winning quickly, Federer wasn't winning. And in 2017, we saw a few times, and we saw it last year at the Australian Open, we saw Federer win a 5-setter against Nadal. We saw him win a 5-setter against Marin Cilic. So we kind of forgot about that old Federer problem where, with his age, maybe he runs out of gas. But he looked slower in this fourth set to me. Goes to a tiebreak still, though, once again. And a forehand error once again. I'm saying once again too much, aren't I? At 5-all was the mini break. Federer had a chance to save this, to break, though, at 6-5. It was match point for Tsitsipas, a second serve, and Federer chips it cross court. Tsitsipas runs around it and hits an inside-out forehand, forces an error by Federer, and that was the match. Once again, that second serve chip return cross court. Just interesting that two of the biggest points in the match were carbon copies of one another, and something that I think that Federer needs to take out of the playbook is on second serves chipping the return. It depends on the player, really, but you need to make sure that if you're going to do that, that a guy like Tsitsipas, who has such a dangerous forehand, can't run around and use it. You have to make sure of that. You can't, on two of the biggest points of the match, one a set point in the second set, the other a match point in a tight tiebreak in the fourth set. So they would have been back on serve if Federer won this point. And twice in a row, you give Tsitsipas a mid-court forehand because you chip a second serve. Return, cross court. I don't know. So those are kind of my thoughts. What do you guys think of Federer moving on? Is he, just give me a reaction. And I guess I'll probably read some of the best comments from this video on Monday. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time. Enjoy the tennis.